The book is, Congresswoman, the book is filled with vivid illustrations of how much power Trump wielded over your Republican colleagues, including how Kevin McCarthy, then Speaker, would sometimes let him listen in secretly to your weekly meetings. And that would, as you write, lead some of your colleagues to put lavish praise upon him because they knew the president was listening, and something unimaginable that this current Congress would let President Biden do. But that hold still remains. Yeah. So many of you, there, as Willie listed, only you and a few of your colleagues stood up to him. Most of you have left. Others, like Senator Mitt Romney, another one who has stood up to Donald Trump, he has announced his retirement. When you look at those who are still behind in Washington, who do you see that's going to stand up to him?
Well, I think that's exactly the danger that we face if you think about the future. There have been editorials written saying, well, this was in the Wall Street Journal a few weeks ago, if Donald Trump is elected again, we really don't have to worry because the institutions of our government will prevent, the worst that he will attempt to do. That nothing could be further from the truth, because those Republicans, a House with Republicans like Mike Johnson, a Senate with people like Josh Hawley and Mike Lee, they won't stand up to him. The other thing that's really important in this regard is he will not abide by the rulings of the courts. And I think people really need to pause and think about what that means. A president who won't enforce court rulings with which he disagrees, as soon as that happens, then people need to recognize immediately, we are unraveling the fundamental structures and systems that make us a nation of laws. And so there won't be any guardrails to stop him.
So Liz, what do you say to people who accuse you, me, a lot of us of just catastrophizing, being hysterical when we bring up the fact that he's talking about terminating the Constitution, assassinating generals that disagree with him, taking TV networks off that he disagrees with, jailing immediately those that he opposes, for former lawyers that have been insufficiently loyal. How do you explain to your friends, your former allies, and other skeptics that this is a decision between democracy and authoritarianism in 2024?
Well, I think that that's exactly what we have to do. And I think part of it is remembering that there are certain people that we aren't going to convince. There are people that are going to be with Trump no matter what. But there are more people, Republicans, Democrats, independents, who we have to make sure they understand he's not a choice. He's not an option. He's not fit for this office. And I think that those are the people who are listening. Those are people we have to mobilize and motivate to stand against the danger that he presents. And I think that the facts matter. There are a lot of people today who I think, say, well, the truth doesn't matter anymore. For some segment of the population, that's true. It doesn't. But far more people are willing to listen. And I think that because this isn't just us imagining what he would do, it's us saying, take him seriously. He's telling us what he will do. Every single day he does that. And just reminding people they can't think of him as an option when they go in to vote in 2024.
Yeah. I want to ask you, the next question I'm going to ask you for advice, counseling advice. I'm wondering how you have dealt with and how you work through it in the book, the fact that you, like me, had 95% ratings, ACU ratings. That was my lifetime rating. I think yours was around 95 as well. And for those that are uninitiated, that means you're like one of the most conservative members of Congress, like I was when I was there. And the very people who we were always trying to pull to make the tough conservative votes, but were cowards and wouldn't do the conservative thing, those are now the people who are running around chanting "Rhino, Rhino" while they hug a guy who's never been conservative his whole life, Donald Trump. And I'm just curious, how do you deal with the fact that so many people that supported you back in your district, back in your state, so many people that you knew in church, so many people that you knew and grew up with, who were the foundation of you know, your childhood and growing into adulthood, those are the very people who have forgotten everything they taught you. Those are the very people who've forgotten everything they ever said about what mattered, about what you want to teach your kids to do, what limited government should look like. How do you work through that still?
I think it's certainly painful in many cases to think about people that you thought you knew, people you thought, you'd taken sort of a judgment of their character and decided certainly that these were people that you thought were honorable. And to see that they aren't is very difficult. I do think, though, part of it is understanding and recognizing that there are millions of really good people who've been betrayed by Donald Trump, and recognizing the power that he's had to prey on their patriotism, but then also understanding that those are not the people that are the ones who are always going to be with him, aren't the ones that we have to convince. We need to be talking to people across the spectrum about the challenges and the threat he poses.